Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. It is 9:01 a.m. My name is Ty Minter, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards present as well, County Manager Mara Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and various staff members that will report on particular agenda items today. For public attendance, we have a live stream on our county YouTube channel, or you can join by conference call by calling 360-252-9020, PIN 1234. And first up on today's agenda, item 1, COVID-19 update. I see Shelley Slaughter, our Director of Public Health and Social Services, and our County Health Officer, Dr. Demiana Abdelmalik.
Thank you, Commissioner Menzer. Good morning. Today marks day 398 of Thurston County's COVID response. Here in Washington State, there have been 345,731 Washingtonians that have had COVID-19, with 5,063 people that have lost their lives. This includes 7,383 Thurston County residents who have had COVID-19 and 71 that have lost their lives. Our current case rate on the Washington State Governor's dashboard puts us at 103.9 over the last 14 days for our population. In terms of hospitalizations, 342 people have been hospitalized for COVID-19 since the pandemic began. Our current hospital capacity in the Western region, which includes Thurston, Lewis, Pacific, and Grays Harbor, is 81.3% of our acute staffed hospital beds are currently occupied, 7.4% of those with COVID patients. In terms of our regional ICU capacity, 13.7 ICU beds are occupied by COVID-19 patients at this time. So COVID still continues to be a very serious threat to the health of those in Thurston County. We want to encourage people to continue to make sure they are being diligent to protect themselves and others from COVID-19. In terms of test positivity, we are at 2.7% in Thurston County, so this continues to be good news. There is still testing widely available here in Thurston County. Wanted to remind everyone that we do have Thurston County Public Health's COVID-19 community-based testing sites throughout the week. Today, we will be at Rochester Organization of Families from 10 to 1, tomorrow in Lacey, Thursday at Union Gospel Mission, Friday at Evergreen State College, and then next week again in Tenino. We have had 49 congregate care outbreaks to date, with 4 that our team is currently investigating. Moving to our vaccine data, some good news around vaccines. In Washington State, 2,065,762 Washingtonians have received the COVID-19 vaccine. In Thurston County, 62,225 doses have been administered. This puts us, in terms of first doses, 15% of Thurston County residents have received a first dose, and we're really happy that 9% have received both doses and are fully vaccinated at this point. We continue to see our vaccine allocations increase in Thurston County, and so that is very encouraging. Our Thurston County region this last week, which includes all approved vaccine providers in Thurston County, received 4,780 first doses and 2,300 second doses for a total of 7,080. Out of that 7,080, Thurston County Public Health administered 2,608 doses this last week, and 2,415 at this weekend alone through a series of events. We vaccinated people at Thurston County Fairgrounds on Friday, at Salvation Army that evening, the Lacey Rack on Saturday, and the Lacey Senior Center on Sunday. I just want to say thank you so much to all of the amazing staff, volunteers, and community partners that helped to make these vaccine events a success, and share that we continue to plan vaccine events for this next week. In this upcoming week, the Thurston County region is allocated 8,710 first doses and 1,000 second doses. So that's 9,710 doses that we have to get into people's arms this next week. And therefore, we will be having many events and as well as vaccine available at local healthcare providers. We encourage Thurston County residents seeking vaccine to look at WashingtonFindYourFace.org and Vaccine Finder to locate available vaccine appointments. Thurston County Public Health plans to administer 3,540 doses this upcoming week. We will do so at clinics at Thurston County Public Health that are for specific populations. And then this upcoming weekend, we're very happy to announce that we will have mass vaccination events at South Puget Sound Community College on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this week. We will be announcing more details to the public in a media release soon and sharing how people can best access those appointments. We will have Friday as an event targeted especially for seniors over age 65. We want to make sure that all seniors over age 65 that are eligible have the opportunity to get vaccine, and we continue to work on that. This last week, also Governor Inslee announced, as did President Biden, that teachers, educators, and childcare providers are now eligible in phase B1 Tier 1. We want to encourage anyone in that category to seek vaccine from our federal pharmacy partners. And those partners are the Safeway Albertsons family, Walmart, Costco, Rite Aid, Health Mart independent pharmacies, and Kroger. For those that are not able to access vaccine through those programs, which are prioritizing educators and childcare providers throughout the month of March, we will have an Educators and Childcare Providers Day on Saturday at SPSCC. We'll continue to vaccinate everyone who's currently eligible in phase 1A, phase 1B, Tier 1 as well. So encourage people to check out our Thurston County Public Health website for more information. We do reserve 20% of our vaccine allocation at Thurston County Public Health for those that have difficulty in accessing vaccine, and they may get assistance in registering for appointments by calling us at 360-867-2610. And with that, I will conclude this long report and open it up to Dr. Dimiana Abdulmalik, our health officer, to add anything I may have missed and take your questions.
Good morning, commissioners. We have with the rise of vaccine and the increase in vaccine in our county and around our country, we are seeing some measures change in terms of the mitigation measures that folks should be undertaking. So specifically, I'm talking about the CDC guidance that came out yesterday, where specifically the guidance really is that the protections needed are in any given social situation are the protections needed for the most vulnerable people in that situation. So in terms of where everyone is fully vaccinated, and the definition of being fully vaccinated is being 2 weeks out from completing your series. So with Pfizer or Moderna, that would be 2 weeks after your second dose. And with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, that would be 2 weeks after that single dose vaccine. You are considered fully vaccinated for that 14-day to 90-day period, which is that period that we know that folks have a significant amount of antibodies made. This is still dynamic, but the guidance released yesterday from the CDC was that while everyone should be avoiding medium and large gatherings just because of that increased risk, and while everyone should continue to mask, distance, wash hands, and all of those mitigation measures that we've been doing since the beginning in public, in certain controlled settings, such as, two households, meeting indoors where everyone is fully vaccinated, so 14 days after completion of a COVID-19 vaccine series, folks may meet without masks and may relax that social distancing piece in that controlled setting. The CDC further went on to say that fully vaccinated grandparents may, in a controlled setting with a single household, may visit with unvaccinated grandchildren. So I know that's something that I've been hearing a lot as I've been working our vaccine clinics on the weekends and in the evenings. I will be providing more details on that because the guidance is fairly nuanced. So I will in my community letter this week. So hope is on the horizon, and I just want to really encourage every Thurston County member and resident to get vaccinated in phase with the vaccine that's available to you. We are so fortunate to have 3 safe and effective vaccines at our disposal here in the county. So hope is on the way. We're not quite there yet. We still have to be really vigilant with all of our prevention measures, but the CDC is closely looking at what specific, what controlled settings it might be safe to have to be able to connect with close friends and loved ones, in a way that's more similar to how we did before the pandemic. So a lot of positive movement in that regard. Thank you, commissioners.
Commissioner Mejia, anything for Shelley or Dr. A?
Yes. So for this weekend, for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday mass vaccination events, are we keeping 20% of the appointments each day for people who do not have accessibility to technology?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not just the day, Friday and Sunday. It's all 3 days.
All of our vaccine that Thurston County Public Health has allocated, we are reserving for that purpose. And last week, we're able to work through everyone that we had on our call list. So that's really good news. It's not everyone who is on that, who needs assistance, is able to access a drive-through site. And so if that is the case, then we are scheduling them for a different type of clinic with our allocated doses.
Okay, my second question is, do we have a walk-up section for those people that are using public transportation?
There is the option for public transportation to be used at the SPSCC site. Okay.
And my third question is in regard to childcare providers being able to be vaccinated. Maybe Dr. A can give some clarification on, if that includes in-home care providers, unlicensed providers, or is there just a specific requirement when it comes to what childcare providers can get vaccinated at this time?
So it's licensed child care providers that are in phase at this point.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, on the antigen issue, are we starting to keep track of the numbers? Are we trying to follow that at all on those individuals that may have had COVID and recovered?
So I do know that there are a number of studies that are going on at different sites throughout the country. And I know that the CDC is keeping pretty close tabs on the duration of antibody protection. I know that there have been a number of studies right now. The highest confidence is that 90-day window. So you'll see that in a lot of the COVID-19 guidance in terms of quarantine. But there is some suggestion that antibody protection can extend up to 180 days. So we're honestly, you know, as a scientific and medical community, we are still learning a lot about that long-term and ongoing protection. I also know that different sites throughout the country are doing some of that population seroprevalence testing. So trying to get a good number of, trying to quantify that asymptomatic piece that we've been kind of talking about throughout the pandemic. So I do know that there's a lot of work going on in that regard. I know that here at Public Health and Social Services, we're really focused on disease control and prevention, as well as including our vaccination and testing efforts for active disease.
You made a comment earlier about the 14-day to 90-day period. I guess that was in reference to protection. So are we thinking that maybe you only get 14 days at the low end of that spectrum and up to 90 days protection from this inoculation?
No, so the 14 days, the reason why it's 14 days to 90 days right now is, and honestly, as we learn more, I'm expecting that 90-day window to hopefully increase. And I know that I'm reviewing the CDC data that was released yesterday. So I'm still in that process. But the 14 days is the time that it takes your body to make antibodies after being vaccinated. So that's why you're only considered fully vaccinated 14 days after you've completed a vaccine series.
Could you explain that 90-day thing again? I didn't get what you were talking about with the 90-day number.
Yeah, so the studies that people have been doing are looking at the level of antibodies that folks have, and when you might see a reduction in antibodies to COVID-19. And there is, so in initial studies, and we're still learning, you know, post-vaccine, because in a number of cases, vaccine actually can trigger a stronger response than even wild type illness. But for wild type illness, the CDC studies have seen a bit of a decline in antibodies at that 90-day mark. And so that's why initially, I know that the work is fairly conservative in terms of being really careful with people after that 90 days. And I'm anticipating that as we know more, we'll be able to extend that out. And I'm anticipating that we'll learn that the protection extends further than that. That is what I'm expecting. But as of right now, we're still following you know, breakthrough cases. We're following we're following the studies on antibody levels over time, and all of those things that can give us clues as to how long, as to the protection that we get from vaccine.
When they talk about that herd immunity thing, are they referring to only those individuals that have received the protection through the injections, or are they talking about counting those individuals that may have had this and recovered from it?
So when we're thinking about herd immunity, what we're talking about is having enough people with antibody protection who can't transmit the virus, so that people who can't be vaccinated, because people do have allergies, or different reasons why they may not be able to be vaccinated, such that because everyone around them can't get the disease because of antibody protection, they're protected even if their body can't make the antibodies. And so what exactly that number is, what that percent vaccination rate is we're still learning a lot about that. And to be honest, it's a number that has changed throughout the pandemic. But what I can say is that we are currently at 15.34% of our population with at least one dose. So this is Thurston County specific, with at least one dose, and 9.14% of our population has completed a series of vaccine. We are seeing, so in addition to kind of the seasonal changes and other factors that we anticipated would contribute to a decline in community transmission, we are definitely seeing a sharp decline in community transmission as well. So that's very hopeful that vaccine is a strong contributor to stopping COVID-19 spread and moving us towards that herd immunity state.
And maybe a final question here is, as contractors are providing vaccination shots to our community that we apparently aren't involved in and don't seem to know much about, do we combine those numbers with the numbers, do we get those numbers so that we can combine them with the numbers that we do know about so that we can have a better idea of our coverage?
So the governor's vaccine dashboard actually is a really, so all providers, there are 3 vaccine streams roughly at this point. It's a little bit complicated. So there's a federal stream through HRSA to federally qualifying clinics. There's the federal retail pharmacy program. And we do get that data. It's just the cadence with which we get that data is still being sorted out. And then there's the state Department of Health allocation data that we get weekly. The governor's or the DOH vaccination dashboard is actually pulled from the immunization system, so WAIIS. And what that looks at is it looks at folks by county of residence who have been vaccinated. So we have some information about vaccine entering our county, and then we also have information through the DOH dashboard about percentage of our residents, regardless of where they got the vaccine, who have been vaccinated.
When we have a private entity providing this vaccination business, do we get notified of that so that we can in turn notify our constituents, our citizens here in Thurston County, of where that might be taking place?
So yes, so Shelley shared the big ones from the major federal retail pharmacies that are receiving that federal supply, and that would be the Walmarts, the Health Marts, pharmacies, as well as Costco and some of the Safeway, Albertsons pharmacies, as well as others. And each of those entities has a centralized appointment booking system where individuals can definitely sign up and get vaccine.
But do we let our folks know through our process of letting the public, helping the public become aware? Do we let them know through our system? Do we let the public know through our system that they can go over to Walmart at such and such a time, or check and sign up or whatever, I'm just trying to make sure that we're coordinating with our citizens. I get a sense that a lot of times this stuff has taken place and we don't know about it maybe until after the fact. And I'm afraid that some of our citizens that are very interested in getting this inoculation are left out because we're not coordinating it quite as good as we could possibly. Maybe I'm mistaken. I know there's something coming up out in Yelm with Johnson & Johnson, and I haven't heard anything being reported on it, so I don't know who, I don't know how our folks can get involved in that. That's what I'm asking.
So there's a combination of open and so at the county level, we do meet with our partners regularly and do that piece of coordination, and everyone who provides vaccine in our county is invited. And I have invited everyone, regardless of where they get their vaccine, regardless of how they get their vaccine allocation. So we have folks that get their vaccine allocation through all three pathways that are meeting on a weekly basis to try to coordinate some of those pieces. So that's something that we've been doing as a health department. Something that that we can definitely work on is coordinating that sign up piece and linking it through our website. That's definitely something that we can work on.
Oh, okay. I guess I'd comment that invited them to give us information is not the same as requiring them to give us information, so that we can keep our citizens advised of where they might go to get this vaccination. So, okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
I would like to just clarify one thing. You are correct, Commissioner, in that the allocation information that I provided regarding, let's say, this next week of 9,710 doses that Thurston County providers are getting are coming from the Washington State allocation and does not include the direct federal pharmacy program or direct federal allocations. So there's even more vaccine available to Thurston County residents. Dr. A mentioned the cadence of that report. We don't know what the federal allocation to those pharmacies are yet this week, but any Thurston County resident that is looking for a vaccination can go to the findyourphase.org if they want to know whether they're eligible or not. If they know they're already eligible and have already gone through that, they can go to the Washington State DOH Vaccine Finder, and that's where all available vaccine providers are listing what their appointments are, and that does include the pharmacy programs. So that is the best place for people to go. We provide links to that on our Thurston County website, and as we get information, we will share it out with the public through social media and through media press releases as we get details to share with our residents.
I see Commissioner Mejia has her hand up.
I just have a follow-up with what Shelley just said. I've gone to the Face Finder and I've gone to the DOH because I'm trying to provide a lot, and this is not on your department, but I'm just trying to see who manages, or is there a way to let providers know to update that information? There is a lot of outdated information on trying to find a place. You go in there, and I understand the frustration. You go in, try to book an appointment, and it says, and it just switches you to another page of the provider, and then after that, it's like, well, the appointments are full. And it's a 4 to 5 step process just for each link. Do we know, or is there a way that we can talk with Department of Health about streamlining that? Because I understand the frustration that many of our seniors, especially if they're not very familiar with technology. I mean, I'm younger and I've struggled with it after going through 4 to 5 pages and trying to find what it is that I'm trying to do. And I don't know if that message can be relayed to Department of Health about maybe streamlining that process a little bit more, where pages aren't just popping up and it's taking you to different sites.
Yes, I share that frustration with all of our residents who are trying to find vaccine. The challenge that we have had is, since there has been a greater demand for vaccine than there has been supply, whenever there are appointments or vaccines available and they are posted on that site, they go so quickly that by the time many residents click on that link to that particular provider, there may no longer be appointments available, which makes it really hard for us to give good real-time information to where vaccine is available and to share that. But I know there are a lot of constantly evolving and improvement to processes and systems that Washington State Department of Health is trying to make in terms of helping to make that vaccine appointment process and locating vaccines more accessible. So we definitely continue to communicate that with our partners and to DOH, the importance of keeping that information up to date. And I know that improvements are being worked on.
Just, could you give out the phone number for those folks that do not have the technical ability or are not served with that social media line that they need to hook up with? There's so many seniors that are not equipped to do this through social media or through looking it up through the net.
Yes, I'm going to provide members of the public with 2 phone numbers. The first one is the Washington State Department of Health Vaccine Helpline, and that is available in multiple languages. And the telephone number is 1-888-856-5816. And they can help anyone in Washington State who is seeking help in signing up and finding vaccine appointments. Locally here in Thurston County, our residents that need assistance can call us at 360-867-2610.
Thank you.
Shelley, you basically covered my question, which was about the different streams and the 9710, and that's not covering all of those different streams. There's actually more than that coming in. And I make that point because the frustration of the last couple months is palpable in the community, but there gets to be a point where you get so frustrated and you kind of give up. I'm kind of dealing with this with my mom, for example. She's had such a difficult time, and in Clark, a different county, but the numbers of the vaccines are rapidly increasing. I mean, those numbers. So now is not the time to give up. It's going to get a lot better and a lot quicker. So set aside your frustration of the past and just stick with it. The appointments are going to be much more readily available as we move into the next few weeks. So just asking people to go, yes, Ramiro.
After you're done, sir.
Okay, well, I was basically done. That's my point. Go ahead, Ramiro.
I just want to make a comment. I was able to attend the mass vaccination site hosted at the Thurston County Fairgrounds on Friday. And the logistics on the planning behind that, incredible. I believe the vaccination went seamless. What it struck the most for me, I was able to just stand on the individuals who were just leaving after the 15-minute waiting period, and just about 99% wearing a smile. And that is, I believe, it puts some context as to what we are doing for our community. And there's many opportunities, absolutely. But I just want to extend kudos to public health and all the volunteers who tirelessly trying to make the best out of the conditions that we have. We have increased vaccinations, we have upcoming clinics, And I just want to, don't lose sight. There is individuals behind all those clinics, medical staff, as well as volunteers. They are helping us go through and provide service to the community. So thank you to all of you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Yes, I was able to attend Lacey Senior Center on Sunday and saw much the same. Well organized, people happy to be there. Good to see Dr. Yu, say hello to her, and Dr. A and the whole team, just to be there. And I know they're working around the clock, so thank you so much. I think I was very impressed by what I saw, so appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to item 2, homeless strategy, and you guys will be back for Board of Health. Homeless strategies is Keely Marino, and there you are.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. I am bringing you the official preliminary data on our 2021 point-in-time count census. So this year, of course, just as a reminder, was very different. The Department of Housing and Urban Development at the national level determined that an unsheltered count was optional per region and per continuum of care. And so our continuum of care, which is the balance of state continuum of care, which is overseen by the Department of Commerce, decided that each region or each county could decide whether or not they would do an unsheltered count, as the balance of state continuum of care was not going to be reporting to HUD any of the unsheltered numbers. So we could determine whether or not we wanted to do that count for ourselves. And so we determined that Thurston County would conduct an unsheltered count this year. So we did an unsheltered count that was an observation count only, meaning that volunteers from the outreach staff community, as well as those with lived experience, folks that were living in encampments, did an observational count. City of Olympia also, and City of Lacey, City of Tumwater, all the jurisdictions participated. So knowing that as we move forward and our numbers are corroborated by the Department of Commerce's numbers at the, when they do the HMIS data poll, we will not be able to access the same level of demographic information as we have been in previous years, because we did not conduct the count via survey. We only conducted the count by observation. And so we were able to get certain information, such as where in the county they were living at the time of the count, and their gender, and potentially their race and ethnicity, which was based on a very brief verbal survey that they did with individuals. So our sheltered count, though, will be reported to HUD, because those numbers are pulled and verified through the Homeless Management Information Data System. So our shelters entered in their data on the night of the point in time count, and then that data is pulled from transitional housing programs within Thurston County. And so the official preliminary numbers are that 639 individuals were counted as unsheltered. That includes people living in encampments and tents, living without any kind of structure, so living on the streets, literally, living in RVs and in cars, living in structures that they had been created for them or by them, so little wooden structures, or perhaps some of the wooden structures that are being constructed for, like, the mitigation site. And then we have 337 individuals that stayed in shelter that night. That includes the mitigation site. So we did include those numbers in this count for sheltered individuals, which is why you see an increase from 2020. We did not count the mitigation site as sheltered in the 2020 count. And then 169 transitional housing folks. So that number stays fairly consistent over the years. So in comparison, in 2020, we counted 995 total individuals experiencing homelessness, unsheltered, sheltered, and in transitional living programs. And this year we have counted 1,145 individuals. Again, difficult and very, have to be cautious in comparing those numbers, because the methodologies were so difficult or different. But that's where we stand in terms of this year's count. So we do see an increase in the number of individuals experiencing homelessness, which is not, I'm sure, very surprising for most people, considering visible homelessness and visible unsheltered homelessness in our community. I'm happy to take any questions.
Commissioner
Yes, Keely, how do these numbers compare to last year's? Is there I know last year probably there was a more robust count, but is it the same? Is it more, less? How is it looking?
Sure. So the transitional housing numbers stay about the same. Predominantly, transitional housing is allocated to just youth and young adult programs. A number of years ago, transitional housing was not identified as a best practice for adults experiencing homelessness, but as a best practice for youth and young adults. So those numbers stay right around the same every single year. The sheltered number is an increase from last year because of that inclusion of the mitigation site. They are entering in their residents every night into HMIS, or so that data is an increase. And then about 100 people increase from last year to this in terms of unsheltered counting. So not a significant increase, but as always, it's a matter of right timing in terms of counting. So even though we weren't doing surveys, we are going out at a particular time and doing a literal head count. So if a person was not at their encampment because they have a job or they were accessing services somewhere else, they would not have been counted. So as always, the point in time count remains imperfect, but it's the best data that we have available for those experiencing homelessness at this time.
And I have one more question in regards to, I see that we counted in Olympia, Lacey, Elm, and Tumwater. Was there a count in those unincorporated areas?
So in the past, we relied a lot on the Rochester Organization of Families, ROOF, to do a count, so doing a surveyed count. Last year, we were able to stretch that count for 7 days so that they could have, as people came in to access their services, those folks could be counted. And that is predominantly how we've counted South County individuals. But that's unfortunately the extent of our counting.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
No, sir, my questions were answered. Thank you.
Keely, did I understand you say that RVs are considered unsheltered, but mitigation site is considered sheltered?
Yes, we included the mitigation site in the sheltered count because they are entering data into HMIS. We had a lot of back and forth with the Department of Commerce of how we should quantify them this year. So that is, I believe that is why it was determined that they would be considered sheltered.
I don't understand why, because the state just told us to?
No, so individuals living in vehicles and RVs are considered unsheltered because under the HUD definition, they're considered living in a place not meant for human habitation or not prolonged human habitation. So RV would be considered not meant for human habitation if it's not connected to any way to remove its sewage, to electricity, to water. So if a person is living long-term in an RV away from any of those resources, it would be considered a place not meant for human habitation. The mitigation site at this point was counted because over the last year, the city of Olympia has done a great job in getting everyone in the mitigation site into the HMIS data system. And so we really were perplexed how to count them, but we went ahead and counted them as sheltered because of the way that they are designated within HMIS.
Okay, I'm not trying to dwell on this. I'm just curious. But what is I'm missing the connection between what is entering data into HMIS have to do with the designation of shelter versus unsheltered? What's the connection there?
Because when the Department of Commerce is pulling data from the Homeless Management Information System to look at unsheltered or sheltered individuals for this year's point in time count. In previous years, residents within the mitigation site were not counted because they were not entered into HMIS. In order to be entered into HMIS, they have to meet certain criteria to be considered a night-by-night emergency shelter, an outreach program, et cetera. The mitigation site falls outside of almost all of that criteria. And so as they were developing a project to account for those staying in the mitigation site, they determined it is best identified as an emergency shelter. So it has a lot to do with how HUD considers, how HUD counts, and how data is entered. We also in our office had a lot of, we went back and forth about it quite a bit.
Okay, thanks, Keely.
Mhm.
So one more thing.
Sure.
This, I know you're not going to be able to have, as you say, like the detailed demographics because you don't have the survey. So the final, I mean, this is preliminary. Is it just going to be similar to this? Is our final kind of product of this, or is there more number crunching being done of some sort or another?
Department of Commerce will deduplicate, ensure that our numbers are verified in the sheltered and transitional numbers. And so we will get those numbers back and make sure that they're verified. And then we will have the OSPI numbers. And if you look on that document, there's an estimated 121 individuals who were staying in institutions such as jails or hospitals on the night of the PIT that would be released into homelessness. So those numbers are estimated based on 2020's numbers. So we're waiting for the verification on those numbers, as well as the Office of Public Instruction or OSPI numbers, which traditionally come out later, such as in May, around May or April. So as soon as we get those numbers, we can have a little bit more of a story to tell.
Good. Yeah, it's always good to see what's going on in schools. Thank you, Keely.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, item 3 today is review of the draft agenda for this afternoon Board of County Commissioners meeting. We will call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. We will have the presentation at 2:05. Prior to that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Mejia. We will have a motion regarding the approval of the agenda and board meeting minutes from March 2nd. The presentation will be from pretrial services, introducing new pretrial services staff. Mary Ann Clear will be there to do that. And Ramiro, is there anything more we need to?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Mary Ann Clear will be coming and introduced 4 new staff in the pretrial services department. It will be introducing diversion officers, Nicole Carbone and Matthew Herrera, and also will be introducing 2 new pretrial services officers. One is diversion, the other one is services. That will be Chris Mueller and LaShonda Harvey. That will give the board the opportunity to welcome new county employees.
Anything from the commissioners on this item?
No questions.
No, sir.
Number 1 is opportunity for the public to address the board.
Yes, Commissioners, you have received correspondence from Mr. Pettit related to the permitting fees. He submitted a couple pieces of documentation via email, and I will presume that he will be providing public testimony this afternoon related to that. I also I'm expecting to have public testimony related to your resolution. There's up for your consideration to declare racism a crisis in Thurston County. So that's what I'm tracking so far.
Okay. Why don't you just go on to the county manager's update, item 2.
I really don't have any specific updates related to the public testimony you received last week, Commissioners.
Okay. Consent item 3A is tort claim settlement.
Yeah, this is a new item. This was not part of your review last week, but this is related to an item that you discussed in an executive session. We have reached a settlement, and this is related to the case Aguirre-Rogers versus Thurston County, and that is the case number 20-2-003-80-34 in the amount of $75,000. And I cannot provide the specifics of this case, but I hope that you're well familiar since we had an executive session recently.
Commissioner Mejia?
No
Anything?
questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess I just want to clarify that what the county manager said. So we did have an executive session on this in the last couple of weeks. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I don't have anything at this time on 3A. Let's move to 3B. Public defense, setting terms of compensation for non-represented defense attorneys.
Yeah, you reviewed this item last week, Commissioners. This is a follow-up to the action the board took in adding a on-call duty compensation to public defenders as part of the 2021 budget. And this is the mechanism in which we will be implementing the decision of the board by allocating a weekly $250 extra compensation, regardless of the number of hours for those attorneys who are on an on-call duty. I believe Commissioner Menser provided an explanation to that, considering his background in public defense. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Anything from the board on this item?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Very good. 3C is our voucher list approval. Any questions from the board regarding voucher items?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. No.
Then we're on to item 4, resolution to declare racism a crisis.
Yes, Commissioner, I introduced this item last week, and I also provided a copy of the draft resolution. I received a couple of comments, and the latest resolution before you includes those comments that I have received. So this afternoon, I will present this item in more detail as to what the intent of the board is if the board passes this resolution. But I'll be more than happy to give you more explanation, but since we're running a little late this morning.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, any questions regarding the resolution?
No questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. Yep, I gave my comments, so I'll just take a look at that prior to this afternoon. And that would take us to 4B, intergovernmental agreement for joint animal services operations.
Commissioner, this item was for your consideration at the last week's Board of County Commissioners meeting in the afternoon. And the board asked me to move this item for this afternoon. And also you asked me to reach out to Animal Services as well as the Sheriff's Office. And I think today we have the Executive Director of JASCOM, Sarah Hawk, as well as the Undersheriff, Ray Brady. And what I asked Sarah, and she has provided a little bit of information as to give a perspective to the board as to how the contributions are allocated to the JASCOM, the contributions from the county. And she has provided in your packet is some information related to the services that JASCOM provides, and as well as a breakdown as to where, how the different programs are divided in JASCOM. And also on the backside, you will see the per capita allocation per jurisdiction that gives you a perspective as to how Thurston County fares in relation to the other 3 jurisdictions. And that is, I was hoping that Sarah will walk us through, and I believe Under Sheriff Brady is also here. Let me see. Yes,
yep,
he's here. So if they can come online and really is, you know, Sarah, you can start by outlining what you provided to the board for today. And also, Under Sheriff Brady will provide his perspective from the Sheriff's Office.
Absolutely. So first, I would like to walk the board through the service.
Could you introduce yourself? And
oh, I am so sorry. I apologize. My name is Sarah Hawk, and I'm the Executive Director for Joint Animal Services. Thank you for having me this morning to talk about the service levels for Thurston County. The first document that you guys do have in front of you is a list of services that the shelter provides, starting with sheltering services. In general, the breakdown of costs for all the jurisdictions are heaviest in sheltering services because of the number of animals that come into the shelter that we house, feed, and provide medical care for during their stay. Some services that we offer to the public are listed here. They are more than just providing adoptions or intaking of strays. We also provide unrequested euthanasias. We provide rehoming services. We also make every effort to return lost animals to their owners, including a 24/7 lost and found reporting system. We have a barn cat program. We have an emergency housing program for those who have either lost their home in emergency circumstances or perhaps may be in the hospital and unable to care for their pets during that time. We have a pet pantry where we provide a variety of supplies to residents of Thurston County who cannot afford those supplies themselves. We also, of note, have a program called Roof Over Rover, where we provide free dog house and shelter to anybody who needs it within Thurston County. And we also provide any extra food, pet food that we have to the different various food banks as well, so that people have access to food to feed their pet. We provide humane education, and we're also a source for all the local nonprofits to be able to distribute low-cost spay-neuter vouchers in order to get their dog or cat spay or neutered. And we do have specific kennels that are reserved for law enforcement only to be able to drop off a pet after hours if needed. So that is not, I did not go over every single item on this list. But as you can see, there is extensive services that we provide, including quarantine. So quarantining of an animal that has potentially been exposed to rabies, as well as we are a site for Thurston County Health Department to do the rabies testing prep for animals being tested for rabies. Moving on from sheltering services, we do provide humane law enforcement. So in this document, I've listed out specifically what calls we go out on or our call outs for Thurston County. As you can see, we have 15 different calls that we respond to that we consider a priority 1, which is a high level immediate response call when there is an officer available. Priority 2s, there are 11 different call outs that we go on for Thurston County. These ones are not as high of a priority as level 1. Usually this means that an animal or a person is not in immediate danger. And then our priority 3s, as you can see, we have 3 call outs that we go on for Thurston County. And these are some lower priority calls that we attend to where no one is in any kind of immediate danger. It'll be items like failure to license or a cat that has a dog or a cat that needs to be picked up because it has passed away and there is no notable owner. So on the final page, I have listed out the calls that we do not service Thurston County for. This has been part of the contractual agreement that Joint Animal Services and JASCOM, as well as Thurston County, has had since 2003. We do not go out on calls that are dogs at large, a cat or a dog that has bitten another animal or a pet, killed a pet, nuisance behavior, destruction of property, because that is tied into nuisance behavior. It's just a separate call out, and livestock menaced. Most of these 2 through 6, as well as priority 3, number 2, fall into animal on animal aggression, which covers those call outs that we do not service. We also do not service barking dog complaints. And that has been the case since 2003.
So just to be clear, Sarah, you do not service unincorporated areas of Thurston County?
Correct. Any
Okay.
unincorporated items in Thurston County. Now, these 8 call outs that we do not provide for unincorporated Thurston County are provided to the cities because, as you note, their cost per capita is higher and they have paid for those services.
Can you walk us through the per capita I think you have on the last page?
Absolutely. So first, let's look at the per capita. At the top, you're going to see the breakdown of per capita for each of the jurisdictions that are a part of the ILA. As you can see, Tumwater has the highest cost per capita at $5.94. Lacey's cost per capita is $5.87. Olympia's cost per capita is $5.75, and Thurston County, their per capita rate is $4.70. So there is a cost of a little over $1 per individual in unincorporated Thurston County. And looking below that, you can see where the cost per capita breaks down per our different services. So our different services are broken down into 5 different categories. We have general administration, we have shelter operations, we have field operations, we have licensing operations, and then restricted grants and donations. Restricted grants and donations are usually applied to any emergency medical care that needs to happen to any animals that come into our facility. So in general operations, as you can see across the board, Thurston County does pay less, but it's still on par with the jurisdictions. You can also see during sheltering operations, Thurston County cost per capita is about on par, but it's still less than the other jurisdictions. Where you see a significant decrease in the cost per capita is in field operations, because that is where we have reduced your service. So you can see that the cost per capita is at 78 cents total versus the other jurisdictions averaging $1.78 per person. Licensing operations, of course, are very minimal at 3 cents per person. And then the restricted grants and donations to provide medical care to animals is at 24 cents per person. So that is the cost breakdown of what Thurston County is paying for. As of note, I will point out that in 2003, when the budget of reduction of services was determined, the calls that were selected were some of your largest call outs because you wanted to reduce services to 1/3. So Thurston County only pays 1/3 of the entire field budget. And in total, when comparing the number of call outs that we do for Thurston County sits at 30% of total call outs. So very on par with the calculation of paying for 1/3 of field services. And another significant thing to note is unincorporated Thurston County is also responsible for 45% of total animal intake to the shelter.
Mr. Under Sheriff, you'd like to provide some perspective?
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Ray Brady, Under Sheriff with Thurston County. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I know that we've had some recent conversations with Sarah and Animal Services in regards to, trying to figure out ways that we can work to improve the services to our citizens. We get here at the Sheriff's Office, we get quite a number of calls for that final page of services that are not provided by Joint Animal Services. And so I think at times we get upset citizens that aren't really sure who to call or who to respond to. So currently for those services, most of them, other than the services dealing with livestock, most of those services are just not handled. And so I think we here at the Sheriff's Office, I know there was an attempt by the board last year to increase the funding to Joint Animal Services. We strongly feel here at the Sheriff's Office that that would be something worthwhile looking into again. I know I speak for the sheriff as well, who supports that to moving forward to trying to close this gap that we have in services to our citizens here in Thurston County. So that's all I really have at this point. I'd be happy to answer any questions on behalf of the Sheriff's Office if anyone has any.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
I don't know if this is for the Under Sheriff or for Sarah. How much more would it take, dollar commitment, for the full service provided to be provided?
Commissioner Edwards, thank you for that question. At this time, We have calculated an estimation of about $330,000 to get the county into full services. That is an estimated price point at this point. That would include 2 additional staff, 4 field services that are solely dedicated to Thurston County. So that would bring Thurston's County sole dedicated field officers to 3. It includes equipment, including a vehicle, and it also includes 24/7 response, because at that point we would have enough officers to bring back the 24/7 call response to, have an officer on call after hours as well. That also is taking into consideration there is a price increase from the last time we spoke about this, due to the fact of JASCOM's commitment to reduce the jurisdiction's dependency on subsidizing the rest of the Joint Animal Services budget through reserves. And so as part of JASCOM's commitment to reducing that overall pull from reserves, there is an additional cost to that, because we are lowering what was originally pulled from reserves of $210,000 to fill the delta in the budget. That number would be reduced by $70,000 in the 2022 budget. And so that is taking into consideration that Thurston County would be taking on part of that, just like the other jurisdictions. I would also like to point out that with the county coming to full service, there would be an increase to all jurisdictions. And the representatives that are in JASCOM that represent the cities and other jurisdictions have said that they fully support their increased cost to make sure that Thurston County citizens are getting equal service across all jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mejia, anything for Sarah or Under Sheriff Brady?
No, thank you, Sarah. And Under Sheriff Brady.
Thank you, Sarah. This was, even though I sat on the board for 2 years, this is still a very clear and presentation that, in a way that I hadn't seen before. So I appreciate this. I think it makes it really clear what the board has to think about for, in our budget and our service levels and, assisting the sheriff's office and all of those considerations. Ramiro, anything for Sarah that you'd like to ask?
No, thank you. The board will be having a conversation later this year related to, addressing the additional level of service. At that point, maybe I can have a conversation with you, Sarah, to put a little more in detail what the dollars and cents are. If increasing what I call is the gap right now per capita by $1 to be a part with the cities, if that equates to the $300,000 that you're mentioning or not. So that, but that conversation needs to occur later on, because I believe the proposal for the board is not the instrument in which we can have those conversations. The in-local agreement that is before the board for approval, consideration for approval, is related to the per capita, as you stated on the last chart. It's right, the operational aspects of continuing with the service that we have as we know it.
Chair, I have a question for Robin.
Go ahead.
Robin, what's our commitment now, dollar-wise? What are we putting towards animal services right now?
So right now, our budget for animal services, darn, I just had that up.
It's right on the information that Sarah provided, $683,096.
680, that's correct.
So it's 686?
683.96.
Oh.
It's on this page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we combine those, though, that's where we're going to be up there about $1 million.
That's correct.
And if we were to do that, all the services would be able to be provided, is what I'm hearing, right?
Correct.
And then I'd ask the undersheriff one more thing. Have you got anything in the works that maybe one of the municipalities or something could pick up that full service of animal services, and if we would commit the 683,000 to them, could we get that full service just for the 683,000? Or have you reached that point?
Obviously, I mean, the only one I think that was still providing services was the city of Yelm, and the city of Yelm is now joined with Joint Animal Services onto that contract. So not that I'm aware of at this point. And obviously, you know, the current resolution, you know, we're talking about, I guess, currently about 2022. You know, that what's currently before the board is basically this same level of service for 2021. But yeah, we don't have any data that would support that we could do it, you know, any cheaper at any other location.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sheriff Brady. Appreciate all that information. So commissioners, this will be on, looks like this afternoon's agenda for approval of the updated ILA. That'll take us to item 5, emergency services, Homeland Security Region 3 Incident Management Team trailer purchase.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. You reviewed this item last week, and for your considerations to authorize the purchase of an additional trailer. The Homeland Security Region 3, which includes the counties of Grace Harbor, Lewis, Mason, Pacific, and Thurston counties, currently has a trailer that provide assistance to many different emergencies. And during the summertime, the Department of Natural Resources of the state leases this trailer to help them fight the wildfires during the summertime. There is a need to consider an additional trailer, and the cost is $76,963.95. It's included in the 2021 budget. The Homeland Security Region 3 has already provided recommendations for the board to go ahead and authorize this purchase. And Kurt Harding is here to answer any questions related to this item.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Any questions for Kurt?
No questions for me, thank you.
No, sir.
All right, thank you, Kurt. I don't have nothing either. Let's go to zipping along here. 5B. This also involves emergency services. Agreement with U.S. Department of Interior for operation and maintenance of river gauges.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. You also reviewed this item last week, and this is related to continue to have an annual contract with the Department of Interior to operate and maintain the stream flow and discharge gauges that are located in the chutes and the Skookumchuck rivers. This is a yearly agreement that we have. It will help us to manage the flood levels on those two rivers. This particular contract is $15,478, which a portion of that is $5,500 are coming from sorry, let me back up. The total cost is $20,978. $15,478 are coming from the general fund, which is included already in the 2021 budget, and $5,500 coming from the stormwater fund. And that has been the financial model in which the board has approved previous similar contracts. And this contract will go from October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. And again, Kurt is here to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
Item 6 is juvenile court probation, sole source professional services contract with Heart Strides Therapeutic Horsemanship.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item last week, and I may probably take you back to Commissioner Mason, to Commissioner Edwards. This item was discussed at great length last year related to the services, whether this provides a sole source, and term is determined, an internal auditor determined that in fact this is a sole source, and this is again a renewal for this contract with Heart Strides Therapeutic, which provide therapeutic services to to juvenile court involved individuals. And this contract has the cost of $53,120, and I believe that is covered by the TST, the treatment sales tax. And Ted Bryan is here to answer any additional questions, as he was here last week.
Thank you, Ted. Commissioner Mejia, anything on heart strides?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm good as well. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you for your time.
Item 7 are standing items, reporting on Commissioner's report, County Manager report, move to adjourn. And I think at this point, if we'll take a break before we jump into the Board of Health, let's reconvene at 10:30 to start Board of Health item 4 on today's agenda.
Thank you. In 3, 2, 1, go ahead.
12:30, we're reconvening our agenda setting work session for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, Thurston County Board of County Commissioners. We're picking up with item 4, reviewing the draft Board of Health agenda for this afternoon at 3:30. The meeting will be called to order at 3:30 or as soon as possible thereafter, following the Board of County Commissioners meeting at 2. There will be a motion discussed regarding approval of agenda and meeting minutes from February 9th. And then we have a proclamation regarding racism crisis. Item 2. Go ahead, Shelley Slaughter, our Director of Public Health and Social Services, and go ahead and address this item for us.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this first item is we'll ask the Board of Health to proclaim racism a public health emergency here in Thurston County. This is a companion to the resolution that the BoCC has on the agenda for consideration at 2 o'clock this afternoon prior to the Board of Health. Racism is a social construct that creates disparities to all aspects of health here in Thurston County. You should have a copy of the most up-to-date proclamation in your packet. There were some additional edits to what was there last week, suggested in part by members of Thurston Thrives, our collective health organization that is helping to advance actions to eliminate racism in Thurston County. Some of those things that I just want to call to your attention are a call on public health and social services to expand our collaboration and partnerships with other organizations to eliminate health disparities, a call on public health and social services and Thurston Thrives to connect and collaborate and take direction from BIPOC communities on proposed actions to eliminate racism and actions that lead to disparities in our community, and a call on public health and social service organizations, as well as healthcare partners, to take actions to eliminate racism in terms of services delivered and take into account the BIPOC community's input into such decisions that impact the health of our entire community. And in whole, to accelerate actions that reduce and eliminate health disparities and racism in Thurston County. So just wanted to let you know we did take into account feedback received on that. I hope there will be members here at the Board of Health at 3:30 on the Zoom to speak to this, to include members of Thurston Thrive's executive team that I know plan to be present, as well as others. So I'm very, very happy that we are at this point to ask the Board of Health to proclaim racism a public health emergency, as it has been for a long time.
Questions from the board regarding the revised proclamation is in our packet. So any questions on that, Shelley?
No questions.
No, sir.
Shelley, that over as well. Opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health is item 3. And then department item 4 is public health legislative review.
And for this next item, Art Starry, who is our Environmental Health Division Director, is also our representative on our legislative committee on Washington State Association of Local Public Health Officials. He's actually the co-chair for our statewide organization. And as we discussed last week, Art will briefly walk you through and remind you of the legislative agenda items that we'll review today. And I believe there was an update to at least one of the bills this week, House Bill 1152. Art?
Good morning, yeah, and I'm Art Starry, the Environmental Health Division Director, as Shelley indicated. And I'll just walk through a few bills, and the one that's most significant, I think, at least for the health department in the county is on the public health front is 1152. And it was actually just passed out of the House yesterday. And it's changed quite a bit since we talked last week. So I can give a quick update on that. I think the bill sponsors and other legislators have been working to try to find something that local health will, if not completely support, at least accept, and try to work on some issues that have been identified across the state as far as being able to provide additional resources and support to some health jurisdictions. So, and I know you're kind of short on time. I won't go into a ton of details now, but I'd be happy to if you want.
Anything that Art should address this morning from the board?
No questions at this time.
Okay.
No,
Art,
sir.
yeah, I'm curious about, I think there were some 11th hour changes about compositions of local boards of health. So, but we don't have to get into that now, but I'd be curious kind of what survived out of the House on that point.
Yeah, that provision did survive. So but I'll provide details this afternoon.
Very good. Thank you, Art. Okay, item 5, Board of Health members, health-related activities. And then we have director's report and health officer's report. Anything for us to know there, Shelley? Preview or?
Dr. Abdelmalek in her report will review some of the vaccine and COVID data shared at agenda setting this morning. And then I will share other information from other programs and activities within our department to include addressing Commissioner Mejia's question last week about toxic algae, of which we have no current advisories for toxic algae in Thurston County.
Okay.
I have a question about toxic algae.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
I believe we all received something from a citizen on effects of toxic algae, I guess, something new. Can you comment on that at all? Do you know what I'm referring to?
I am not aware of that particular constituent communication, but as Art is still here with us on the screen, he may be able to further address that question if there's some more details about it.
I'm aware that someone sent an email to the supervisor who manages our toxic algae program, but I don't know that she's had a chance to review that yet. I know I certainly haven't. So, but I can try to find out some more information before the Board of Health meeting if you'd like.
No, I just wanted to find out if we were going to get anything on that, or if there's probably
I'm sure that we will. Jane Mountjoy Venning, who's the supervisor, I know is going to take a look at that, and I'll send you a note and let you know what we think of that.
Yeah, that's all I was wondering, if it's pertinent or not pertinent information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shelley. We need to move on to item 5, which is a review of next Tuesday's Board of County Commissioners meeting. 2 p.m. meeting will be called to order. Pledge of allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Edwards. Motions regarding agenda and board meeting minutes. Opportunity of public to address the board. County manager's update. Anything, Ramiro, on any of those items?
Depending on the what you receive as a public testimony this afternoon, if needs a follow-up.
Okay. Consent item 3A is central services, sole source purchase from Modern Machinery.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Central Services is requesting for you to consider a sole source to purchase the repairs for the asset number F4069. That's a paver machine the Public Works utilizes. The screed at the paver has failed in its replacement, which includes the heating element. As a matter of perspective, the screed, this particular item, is fabricated by Carlson Paving, which we purchased the paver from this particular company back in 2009 through a competitive process. And I believe the sole source has already been approved by the internal auditor. You can correct me with that, Bruce. But it is an equipment that is only manufactured by modern machinery, and that is the baselines of this sole source. The cost of this particular purchase is $11,461, and I believe that comes from our ER&R funds. Bruce?
Chris Rowe, Fleet Services Manager. No, ready to answer any questions on it. It's been vetted. The paper, this is a wear item that needs to be replaced so that the paper can level asphalt. It's being applied to the roadway.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Mejia, go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear what the machine does.
It's a paver. It's actually lace pavement.
Okay.
And the screed is the pavement that actually floods the asphalt while they go through it. So the heating element of that has been failed. So we need to replace that piece of that equipment.
Okay. And the funding is coming from where, Ramir? I think you said it by.
ER&R.
Yeah, okay.
As the equipment replacement, yeah.
Those were my questions, just some clarification. Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
I guess the only question I'd have, I don't know anything about this equipment, but a screed, S-C-R-E-E-D is what again? Something about leveling the heating or leveling or something?
So it's on the back end of the paver. So the paver applies the asphalt and this applies the final slope to the road.
Okay,
So
I thought
there's a heating
maybe it
element.
was a trick question, the whole thing. So I'm good with it. Do you need it?
Were you
We
given
wanna
a,
pave the roads.
were you given as a trick question, Commissioner?
So, Commissioner, a screed is a long, angry, rambling email from a okay, I don't have any questions either, Bruce. Thank you. Item 3B, Public Works, abolishment of 3 solid waste petty cash fines.
Yeah, Commissioners, as we move along into all the electronic transactions, all the petty cash accounts, once the board created are no longer needed. So in this particular case, for you to consider abolishing 3 petty cash funds as part of the solid waste. And again, we'll continue to address those as we move along. And the reason is we no longer needed to have cash at hand.
I do have a question about that.
Go ahead.
Are we saying that we won't be doing cash anymore, or we just don't need that?
We don't need those 3 particular cash funds.
Okay,
I'm not saying that we're eliminating all.
But citizens will still be able to come in and pay with cash.
Yeah, cash
Thank
is
you.
cash is still a good currency.
Cash is a king or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything, Commissioner Mejia?
Am I allowed to ask how much petty cash is in those funds?
Oh, that is a good question. I'll get that information for you.
Okay.
Usually it's probably about a couple $100, but yeah.
Okay.
But I'll get that.
Just curiosity more than anything.
Oh, that's good. I'll bring those to you.
Robin?
They're going to be less than a couple $100 in each account.
Yeah.
Often less than 100.
Okay, 3C is reappointment to Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District Board.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, there's a follow-up to, I believe, the direction of the board of this appointment. Any questions?
This was something that came from the jurisdictions, if I remember correctly. The recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the board on Mr. Rouse's reappointment?
I guess I do just quickly, it's coming from the municipalities, a recommendation, is that right? On this one?
That's my recollection, but
Yeah.
I don't want to say for sure. Yeah, I don't remember.
Is it worth mentioning that? Because I like to have folks know that we're cooperating with the other jurisdictions whenever possible. I just asked that question for clarification for the public. That's the only reason I bring that up.
Is Amy present?
Yeah, she is here.
Amy, do you have the answer to that question?
This is a reappointment that was confirmed by each of the cities, by Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater. We can certainly add that into the motion if you'd like.
Well, I wonder what my seatmates think about it. I just like to clarify things for the public, but a lot of times they don't know what we're doing.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me get caught up with you just to make sure that we got the right language, if I may.
You will be reading it after all, so.
And you will, on the action you like to add, recommended by the city of Tumwater, is that a recommendation? It's just one.
I think it was actually more than Tumwater, I thought, but.
Yes, it was Tumwater, Olympia, and Lacey.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's what I remembered about the whole thing.
How about if we add by the participating jurisdictions?
That's fine.
Will that work?
I'm just looking to clarify it for the public, that's all.
It's all good. I'm just trying to get the right language. Okay. Thank you.
Because we go over so many things ourselves, you know, that I wasn't sure that was the right one, because we do, let alone the public, when they hear it, they're not going to know what it was about. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
3D is the voucher list, which we'll look at when received later this week. Item 4A, request for proposal. This is under Public Works. Request for proposal for rate design and financial advisory services for water and sewer utilities.
Yeah, Commissioner, before we get into Public Works, you will see a new item next week, and that is for your consideration. That will be from the Commissioner's office from me, to consider setting a public hearing for you to get public testimony related to changes to the board meetings, special meetings, as that resolution that you direct us for us to submit an AIS. We didn't have the chance to add it for your review, but you will see an item to set the public hearing next week before the Public Works items.
Okay, well, that item's been reviewed in multiple executive sessions by the board, so hopefully we'll be ready for that next week.
Yeah, if the board considers setting a public hearing, then the public will have the opportunity to provide feedback to you before you consider taking a final action.
Right, okay. Then let's go to the Public Works item 4A.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners, for and it is related to some of the conversations that Public Works has had with the board related to a potential consolidation of the water and sewer utilities that we have around the county. The board authorized a consolidation feasibility study back in 2020, which Public Works provided that perspective to you. As a result of that, the next step I believe the board requested is, really, is this going to be, one thing is addressing or answering the question, was it legal? And I think it was, yes, it is within the parameters of the law to consider consolidation of those utilities. The next question is going to be what it will be the financial elements of that potential consolidation before the board can take an action or consider taking an action. So this particular request is for you to consider issuing a request for proposal to secure the services of a consultant to help us go through the rate design and financial elements that relate to this proposal. So Zinav, the G is here to answer any questions related to this particular proposal. I think I just butchered your name.
Okay, so let me start with Commissioner. Well, before I do that, before we ask questions from the board, Ramiro, can you take us back a little bit?
Yep.
Because we had a meeting with Boston Harbor Citizen Group, and I think that was before Commissioner Mejia was on the board. All right. Is that last?
Yeah, that was last year.
Yeah, end of last year.
Yeah.
And they had concerns about our approach. And can you just remind the board? I need reminding, and Commissioner Mejia
Yeah.
might need even more than that about kind of what the elements of the concerns were.
Thank you. Let me give you a perspective. The county has utilities where we call it the Grand Mound. We have a water and sewer in Grand Mound, Thomashan, Boston Harbor, in Olympic View. Each of those utilities at this point, we have different ways to manage individual rates, and each utility, there are different level of financial stability. So one of the questions even since I got here was, is there an opportunity to consolidate the utilities to make it a more effective way as to how we manage the actual assets in terms of water and sewer, as opposed to manage on the individual basis. So the result of that was, first of all, was illegal. Can we go through this process and consolidate those utilities in a legal way? So that was the result of the feasibility and consolidation study that was done in 2020, which answered that question to the board. Following to that, you received some public testimony, and in fact, the members of the Boston Harbor Advisory Committee came and had a conversation with the board where they raised some questions. But as you may recall, some of the questions really is specific related to the finances. And obviously, we didn't have the answers to that. And this is the request for proposal is really a way to get to those questions that you receive from the community. How much is it going to cost? What is it going to be entail to each of those ratepayers on the different water and sewer utilities? Because one of the concerns, as you may recall, is that some ratepayers who are in a specific water and sewer utility could be subsidizing activities from another utility per se. They're not necessarily within the geographic area. All those comments you received from the Boston Harbor, as far as I understand, are valid, good questions. And I believe this request for proposals is really an attempt to get to that level of detail in order for the board to have a clear understanding, and also we can provide some answers to those questions. Did I answer your question, Commissioner?
I do have some questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Okay, forever I've heard about one fund cannot benefit another fund. It just seems like that's some kind of a principle the county's trying to live by. And then the Grand Mound system is completely different than the other systems. It's more a commercial or municipal or however you want to look at it, but it's completely different than the residential systems that we deal with. So taking all that into consideration, going back to the one fund can't, assist another fund or whatever, are we going to be making any drastic changes to any individual or maybe group of individuals on rates?
Excellent question, Commissioner, and that is the purpose of the request for proposals, because at this point, we really don't have the answer as to what the impacts will be, if any. So, and I believe that was the direction of the board back last year to help you or get to the bottom of at least trying to answer some of those questions. Valid questions, great questions.
Okay.
But unfortunately, at this point, we don't have that.
Okay, so that will you kind of cover that preamble, if you will, in your request for bids or whatever? I mean, so we'll get that all covered?
This afternoon?
Oh, no, you don't have to do it this afternoon, but I mean, that's the kind of thing that we're going to come out with. In the end, we're going to have answers to those questions.
Yeah, and yeah, it will include the determination of true operational cost by separate utilities and how the consolidation, if that is the case, make financial sense.
Okay, and then just one quick follow-up on that. So I think, if I remember right, I think it was Boston Harbor, they were concerned that they were going to have to pay what they figured was an unfair amount, or their share was going to be unfair amount. Maybe for some of those reasons that I mentioned, that Grand Mound is different than the rest. So have we come to a conclusion or a solution on their concerns on that?
If I may, this request for proposals is an attempt to get to the answers to the questions they raised, because their questions they raised was of financial nature, as the question that you just had this morning, Commissioner. So really, is this an attempt to get to those answers? Because at this point,
Who's footing the bill, I guess, is the bottom line. Out of our budget, are we footing the bill, or are those citizens that are possibly going to be affected, are they footing the bill?
I believe the sewer and water funds.
Which ends up being those participants, is that right?
Right, in a prorated basis. Mm-hmm.
So their concerns are still, they're going to have to pay for something that they don't want to pay for to come up with a solution. What if it says, well, yeah, that wasn't fair to charge them? Then is the county going to pick up some of the cost of that analysis?
I'm sorry, could I jump in real quick here? Hi, Sam Najati, Technical Service Manager, Public Works. So the one thing that you'll notice if you go through the RFP is we're actually asking for both two sets of rates. We're asking for both unconsolidated and consolidated rates so that we can make that determination of whether consolidation is a path forward. And if it's not, we still have those unconsolidated rates, which would come out of this rate study, which would then be looked at by the Board of County Commissioners for possible implementation starting in 2023.
Okay, I guess, I know I'm being kind of repetitive here, but it's almost like the lake management districts. It seems like they feel they're getting a bum deal on some things. Well, completely different on this, except when it was brought to our attention by the Boston Harbor folks, they kind of didn't want to pay for this study. And it sounds like we're going to be charging them for a study that in the end is going to benefit either the county or maybe another fund. So that's why I'm confused about this whole thing about, we've been told all along that one fund can't do another, but here we're being told, well, we're going to pay for it and see if that's right or not. So maybe I'm not making that clear. It's
Robin,
quite confusing.
So it's my understanding that the cost of this study is going to be prorated amongst all of the utility funds in a fair and equitable manner, so that one fund is not benefiting another. And I really appreciate, Commissioner, that you have internalized that phrase, because it's a state law. It's not just a financial principle. That one fund may not benefit another, but there is no benefit between funds when the costs are prorated. And if I understand this proposal, you will come out with information that is valuable in the rate study, even if you do not choose to consolidate, because every so often the county needs to have current updated rates. And this study will get you current rates. It's much like rates in other departments. We need to look at them every so often to make sure that the rates that we're charging are fair and equitable for each utility. So even if you don't consolidate, there will be valuable information in this study.
And who would actually benefit from that valuable information? Would it be the county or the individual ratepayers?
The ratepayers will benefit because they will know that they are paying fair rates for the services that they receive.
Okay, then just one final question. when you figure out who pays what towards this study, there's a big difference between, say, a big new hotel and restaurant that happens to be on it and a homeowner that happens to be on the system. I mean, the disparity is immense there. So is the charge reflected in that usage, or are they just a member participating and everybody's paying the same, the homeowner or the car wash or the restaurant or whatever it is? That's my question.
I am going to defer to our program expert to ask if the study will include both commercial and residential rates, or if there is a unit of use.
So thank you for that clarifying question. So we will be looking at potentially different customer classes for commercial versus residential users. That's one part of this study, is to look at different policy decisions around how we bill and provide recommendations for that in order to formulate what our rate structure is potentially going to be. So yes, there would be considerations of the impact that a commercial user has versus a residential customer, and that would be factored into the final rates.
Okay, thank you.
So this question may be for Zainab or it might be for Ramiro. So if we get the rates and consolidated, unconsolidated, and of course it's not going to be identical, there's going to be some, as you say, subsidizing the less, the one district, the stronger district might be slightly subsidizing the weaker district or whatever. And then we have to assess whether or not that disparity or that change is worth it because of other values, stability across the system and all of that. So I guess my question, is if we put this out and get this study, we have the numbers, now we know what the magnitude is, then what additional information are we going to decide whether or not that magnitude is worth the other benefits, the collateral benefits to having consolidation? How will we get to that final decision point of whether consolidation is good?
Excellent point, Commissioner. So when if the board approves the request for proposals, and when we get the report out, there will be a working session with the board to address really is if there's an increase, there's any opportunities for consolidation or not, and what is the pros and cons of each one of those, and what will be the impacts to the ratepayers, not just as an individual, also perhaps the benefits of the utilities as a whole. There's going to be a series of conversations with the board after the report is completed, and also there's going to be an outreach to all those ratepayers as well, because before you can approve any changes on the rates, public engagement needs to be keyed. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done even before you get to the point of considering any adjustments, whether it's consolidated or not. And again, we're just trying to be mindful of the steps, and this is probably one of the first steps as to get us to the financial information that you need before you make an informed decision.
Edward's here.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm still trying to figure out, is there a rough dollar amount combined that we're going out for a bid and we're expecting a bid in a certain range or something? Is that anything that you can talk about in public without spilling the beans, so to speak?
So within the RFP, we have an estimated amount which we believe that the study will cost, and that estimated cost is around $60,000.
Okay, then based on that $60,000, who is going to be contributing towards that? Say it was $60,000. Let's just take a grasp at that. Who's contributing dollars to that $60,000? Is it just the ratepayers of those outfits named by the county manager, or is the county participating in some fashion, a certain percentage or what?
It will be prorated among the Grand Mount, Thomas Shen, Boston Harbor, and Olympic View funds.
Right, so it's split up between,
Prorated.
between those particular districts, is that right? And my question is, the county is going to end up with some benefit out of this, and I think that was the big piece of the Boston Harbor citizens that were concerned that here the county is participating and we're not putting anything in. We're going to be a beneficiary, but we're not contributing towards this analysis. So,
with all the respect, we are.
We are? What are we? That's what I wanted to know.
Well, the Grand Mount is owned and operated by the county, and most likely will be the larger contributor to this study.
But that's based on the ratepayers down there that contribute to that fund.
All of these are owned and operated by the county.
Right, that's what I mean. But the county itself is going to be a beneficiary of the results of the study. And I don't understand how come the county isn't participating at least at the same level that the other, I don't know, limited districts, sewer districts, whatever you want to call them. I don't understand why we're not helping do this. That's kind of what I'm up against. So if I remember right, I believe that Boston Harbor had that concern when they came to us as a community.
So I'm a little bit confused about your statement of what the county is not paying, and the county is benefiting. What? So I really don't understand that comment, Commissioner, because as we stated, those are county-owned operated utilities. So so I don't understand what the comment of why the county is not participating on the cost.
I guess I could clarify that by saying I don't know why the county general fund isn't participating, because all the rest of the money is going to come from those ratepayers within those districts.
The point of all this is to stabilize these utilities, and I mean, I don't see why the general public would pay for these very targeted analysis of trying to help these particular utilities. It's really their issue. Robin, you had your hand up?
I was just going to say that should the board wish to pay for a portion of it with the general fund, that is your prerogative. What you approved in your budget was an allocation amongst the utility funds. This is an administrative cost of operating utilities. And I would just echo what Commissioner Metzer said. Why would people who do not live in these utility districts pay toward this? And quite frankly, Commissioner Edwards, I don't understand what you're referencing as a benefit to the county that is not a benefit directly to these ratepayers.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is it's prorated, and a municipal or a residential system is very different than a commercial system where they have businesses and, you know, they have car washes, hotels, whatever it is. That's why I was trying to figure out that difference on the prorated, but we don't seem to have an answer to that.
We have
I'm just trying to make it fair for all parties concerned, and I agree. Commissioner Mentzer's comments about why would we want general fund? Yeah, why would we? That was a dumb thing on my part.
No one's saying that.
Okay. Are we good on this item, or do we need? Is there something else to be addressed here?
Yeah,
I don't think you've had a chance. You've had a chance to listen to all of this, and a lot of it's got historical pieces. Do you have any questions for this morning?
I heard like 3 talking points, but I think I got the gist of it, so thank you.
Okay.
And I'm good, thank you, sir.
So Ramiro, I would like to ask you, I don't think there's any possibility of us completing the agenda given where we are and what's left. There's an executive session that may have time sensitivity. I'm giving you the opportunity to maybe suggest removing certain items or going, I mean, Brian, is there
Yeah,
any suggestions you can make in terms of what needs to be addressed?
the other items, if you, I can just walk you through. This is what it calls, you have seen this in the past. For instance, the next items, request for the Long Lake and Lawrence Lake. This is to issue a request for proposals to start treating the water because the summer months are coming. This is part of the coordination with the lake management districts, and this is just a way to secure a contractor. So those are items B and C. The Superior Court item is related for you to consider extending an existing contract that we have with Regional Toxicology Services. And the intent of extending to April 30th is to allow Superior Court to go through a bidding process to go through a request for proposals. This is an extension of the contract. It will allow it to go through a bidding process to secure long-term services. And lastly, we have 3 public hearings at 3 o'clock. One is related to the changes of development code dockets, permitted child care centers. The other one is the resorts and retreats over 100 acres. And the other public hearing is related to the commercial smokehouses. I believe the board has been well informed about those 3 items. That's the agenda for next week.
Chair, I have no questions on any of the items that were just explained by the county manager, just so you know.
I don't either.
Okay, great. I saw Long Lake and Lawrence Lake and weeds and water, and I got nervous.
Yeah.
So we're going to have another half-hour digression.
Different
well, that
topic,
takes us
though, I think.
to the Transportation Benefit District, and that goes to somebody else besides me.
Commissioner Mejia.
What? Oh, so I do
Transportation Benefit
this?
District.
Oh, I walked through this? Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay, so for the Transportation Benefit District, this is the agenda for Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. At 4 p.m., we'll call the meeting to order. We'll do the approval of the March 16th, 2021 agenda, approval of the meeting minutes from October 20th, 2022. Item number 2 at 4:05 p.m., we'll give the opportunity for the public to address the board. And I'm not sure if how those usually go. Item number 3, it's department items. That will start at 4:10. Item number A, it's to ratify the election of Thurston County Transportation Benefit District TC-TBD officers for 2021. And that is Scott Lindblom?
Yeah, this is the, since this will be your first meeting as the Transportation Benefit District for 2021, the first item on your agenda is to ratify the election of officers. Commissioner Mejia is the president of the Transportation Benefit District. Commissioner Edwards is the vice president, and Commissioner Ty Menser is a board member. And that will last for the calendar year 2021. Related to the public testimony, you may receive some public testimony from asking the question as to why the county continues to have the Transportation Benefit District, since the district has not exercised any financial options or have not developed a work program. So you may receive public testimony related to that.
Okay. Item B, or any questions for that, Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. Option number B, move to accept the 2020 TC TBD annual report and direct staff to post its availability in the newspaper of record for Thurston County.
Yes, as part of the requirements, Commissioner, every year the Transportation Benefit District needs to formally submit a yearly annual report, and the staff is going to walk you through the elements of the 2020 report. As you can imagine, not much to that, but it's something as part of the requirement that we need to, you need to approve the annual report. I believe Steve Bricker from Public Works is here to talk about this item.
About the report specifically, Romero, or?
Yeah, or?
Do you guys have any questions? Steve Bricker, the construction manager for Public Works here.
Any questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I do not.
Commissioner Menser?
No.
I don't have any questions either. Okay, so item C. It's a presentation of the 2020 Transportation Year in Review and 2021 Transportation Capital Construction, Maintenance, and Preservation.
Yeah, Commissioner, this will give you an opportunity for the Transportation Benefit District Board members to have a look back on the accomplishment in 2020 related to all the road construction, maintenance, and preservation efforts, and as well as having a glimpse as to what is coming in 2021. Since, my background is such, I always look forward to this presentation because it gives a little more in detail as to how many asphalt lane miles we have laid out in the county. Woohoo. Steve?
Yeah, we'll give you guys a recap next week of last year and then kind of give you an upcoming shot of what we're looking at this year for a transportation project. So should be good. Let me know if you have any questions now or.
Ma'am, I do have one question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
At some point when you give that report, could I get an update on the $1 million sand shed?
The $1 million sand shed.
Just want to know where the whole thing's at. That's all. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't like to surprise anybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Ramiro gets excited about the lane miles, like I get excited about hearing how many people the public defender got out of jail in the last year.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no questions on this, thanks.
Okay, and with that, at 5 o'clock, we'll adjourn. And
Back to me. Okay, let's hit item 7, proclamations and awards. Clerk of the board.
Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. There are no proclamations for review today.
Advisory boards and commissions.
There are 2 applications for consideration for the Agritourism Advisory Committee. The first was received from Josh Stottlemyre of Stottle Winery, whom would be a new appointment. The second is for the reappointment of Lynn Critchfield, Executive Director of the Elm Chamber. These appointments would fill the committee's remaining positions, and the applications are attached for your review. So I will bring these back next week unless there are any questions. And if there are not, I do have one other quick item. So typically, once an appointment is made, the board will sign off on an appointment letter as courtesy. To streamline the process, I'd like to propose that I sign the letter on behalf of the board as clerk of the board. This seems to make sense as the formal appointments are done during the board meetings. And we send the letters only as a courtesy. So this would kind of cut off on a few days for the boards and commissions of ours who do use the appointment letters to formally communicate with the new appointments. Are there any concerns with that? Thank you.
no concerns for me.
Anything from the board regarding the proposal to have Amy send the letters?
No, sir.
No, sir.
That works for me. Amy, my question was, and you don't have to answer it today if it's not at the top of your head, but on the agritourism, is this a board where we have commissioner district assignment, like a certain number per district? They always put their commissioner district, and I never know on the application because it's just asked for, but I never know board by board whether that's relevant or not, really. I can't remember on agritourism.
Not for agritourism.
Okay, very good.
I'll bring a current roster of theirs next week.
Okay, great. So we'll take a look at those next week. And that takes us to PIO check-in, item 9.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I don't have any updates that can't wait until next week.
Appreciate that, Megan. Legislative update, County Manager.
I briefly want to walk you through, I'm not going to go item by item. This is just a report as to where all the different bills will be. Today is another deadline, and we'll know better what item bills are moving forward by next week. Some items to highlight is the page 2, the House Bill 1069 concerning local government fiscal flexibility passed the House, is moving into the Senate. The engrossed House Bill 1070, that's related to modified allowed use of local tax revenue in affordable housing, also passed the House and is on the Senate for consideration. Another bill that I'd like to highlight to you is on page 3. This House Bill 1152 that's related to supporting measures to create comprehensive public health districts. I believe Art Story is going to give you additional information related to this particular bill. And I believe that has passed the House 5641 and is moving to the Senate. House Bill 1167, that is concerning the Thurston County Superior Court judge. The House passed unanimously last week and is currently on the Senate for consideration. Moving on to page 5, substitute House Bill 1309, and that is related to concerning the dates of certification of the levies. It is an extension within the month of December. The House passed and is currently in the Senate. On the same page 5, engross substitute House Bill 1329 concerning public meetings, accessibility and participation. It passed the House and is currently in the Senate for consideration. Moving on to the other one that I'd like to highlight on page 7, the Senate Bill 5045. That is related to establishing state meat and poultry inspections. I believe you received a letter from the agritourism group in order to support this particular bill. Has passed the House. Passed the Senate and is currently in the House for final consideration. And those are all the bills that I'd like to highlight to you. And again, next week we'll have a much better understanding of what bills are moving forward into the legislative session. But I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the board on any of the legislative items?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's move to item 11, briefing/public hearing decisions pending.
There is nothing pending, commissioners.
Okay. Item 12 has a number of sub-items. Number 1 is 2020 census redistricting.
Yeah, this is an item that I briefly mentioned to you maybe a couple, 3 weeks ago, where in order for us to start working on the redistricting, and that will be the Board of County Commissioners districts, we need to wait until the actual census data is going to be released. That has suffered a few delays along the way. And right now, the way we have it is we will not be receiving the census data until September 30th, 2021. That puts a lot of pressure as to how we're going to go about in accomplishing the redistricting that we need to do, the commissioner districts, which that needs to be done every 10 years after the census is completed. So today you're going to hear from the staff a proposal, at least in concept. We're not getting to the level of detail now because we don't know. In concept as to how the staff is going to try to bring those required changes on the commissioners' districts, and in order to meet the deadlines we need to meet. So there's going to be a series of what I call objectives. The staff is going to be bringing to you. The main objective, obviously, we're going to try to balance the population among all the 3 commissioners' districts. That's the objective number 1, and that is probably what the purpose as to why we need to go through this redistricting. And also, there's going to be adjustments within the districts, mainly under District 2, because the population has grown significantly under District 2. The way staff is going to be providing those changes will be at the precinct level. And we will not be changing the boundaries by splitting the districts because we don't want to create additional work to the auditor. So we'll minimize the number of precincts. They will be balancing between one district and the other. And at the end, we'll provide one proposal to the board to consider in terms of what the redistricting will be. And we have included to you a map. It doesn't mean much, but I will encourage you to come to the room 280 to see where the areas of potential changes on the districts, which, no surprise, is going to be within the urban areas, is where the most of the population is, and that's where most of the potential changes will be. And again, this will be somewhat of an attempt to move forward on the timelines that we're required to do. There is a couple of stakeholders that we need to engage. We'll go through those engagements this year prior to September 30th, hopefully, to explain the overall process, if this process is adequate for the Board of County Commissioners. The main stakeholders are the Port of Olympia. Those districts have to follow the Commissioner's district boundaries, and that is stated by law. The Public Utility District, PUD, for the most part, they follow the Commissioner districts, but are not required. They do have options as to how they want to redistrict their boards. So those are the two main stakeholders that we're going to be reaching out before, hopefully before the September 30th, just to explain the process that we're going to go through. And again, this is the start of the conversation, and we're hoping to get the board at least a green light on the overall process, because the details will come later. So Robin and Whitney are going to take over from here and walk you through the details of what you have in front of you.
So thank you, Romero. You've covered most of this nicely. But here are the documents the commissioners have. The first is a really nice layout and explanation page that was created by the Washington State Association of Auditors. And what I really liked about this was the timeline. It's very clear that now the state anticipates receiving the census data by the end of September, but that's not necessarily the date that counties receive the census data. The state passes it down to us, and they, by law, have 45 days to do that. So the next item in your packet is timelines, and you have two versions of the timelines. One takes us out. Both of these say, what will we do if the state takes the full 45 days and we receive the census data on November 14th? So we've prepared a worst case scenario to be able to do the redistricting of county commissioners and then turn this information over to Mary Hall and her team so that they have time to do their work on the precincts. So the first deadline, which has lots of time, for lots being a relative term, since we usually get this sometime in January or February, but the timeline that takes us to February gives us time for meetings and public hearings and consideration of the options. But Mary has to have her work done and to you by the end of March. So this February timeline is really not feasible. So flip the page and look at the timeline that ends on December 31st. This says that if we get the data on November 14th, that we have to have it ready for stakeholder meetings for the port and the PUD to review no later than November 29th. That's a pretty fast turnaround, and we have to have it ready by that date because the process requires public hearing. And we would want to hold that public hearing by December 14th so that the board can adopt the plan by December 21st. That gives you a little extra time if there should be any additional consideration that the board wants to make, you could push it to December 28th. But this really pushes us right into the holiday season. So we tried to choose dates that get us through the end of December and still allow us to set the public hearing on November 30th. That would be the legally required notice date, and publish this option by December 3rd. In order to do that, as Romero said, we would provide one option. And the research that Whitney has done shows that 10 years ago, quite a few options were presented to our stakeholders and to the board. But we don't have time for a lot of options and discussion this year because we are not receiving the information timely. So we are proposing, as Romero said, moving whole precincts, moving the fewest possible number of precincts, presenting you with one single proposal. We will ensure that all commissioners and port commissioners and PUD elected officials remain in the district that they're currently in. And we will start meeting with stakeholders early before we even get the census data to ensure that everyone is on board with this. There's the map in your packet that is much too small to read. And that's why there is a very large map in the boardroom. Take a look at it. And when you think about moving whole precincts to and minimizing the number, you'll see very quickly why we put circles in around certain areas that we propose or where we would choose the districts to move or the precincts to move between the districts. That map also has the 2002 estimated population in each commissioner district.
2020.
Yes, the 2020.
2020.
So the it's got it broken down by district, so you can start to get a sense of approximately how many. It's by the precincts are by voters right now. We'll have the census data for population by precinct when we start to actually do this. But our timeline is going to be extremely tight. Mary's timeline is also extremely compressed because we've gotten this so late. And we're trying to work together toward a common goal of being able to complete it. I also have one other piece of information before I turn this over to you for questions. And that is that there had been a Senate Bill 5013 moving through Senate that would have extended the deadline to December 31st for commissioner districts. The bill passed without the amendment. So the legal deadline to change commissioner districts will be November 15th. And as you can see by this timeline, we will never hit that date. Regardless, if we don't get the data earlier than what we're anticipating here, we're going to be in violation of state law. So that's an issue that we're going to have to take up as we watch this go. But this is going to be a highly compressed process. With that, I'm just going to open it up to you.
Just for the to the benefit of the public, because they see in this map, and that's the map that you discussed. And in this map, there is a circle, a couple of areas where perhaps most of the redistricting will occur. No surprise on the urban area. And also, Robin, you stated the projected estimated population of the county in 2020 is just about 290,920. That may vary. So there is an opportunity to move population from one district to another. Just to give you, give the public a perspective, District 2, the projected 2020 population is 101,350. District 1, projected population in 2020 is 94,540. In District 3, the 2020 projected population, 95,030. So you can see District 2 is the one who needs to be what I call shaving population in order to achieve that balance. So I just want to describe what the public is looking on the screen.
Commissioner Mejia, questions on this item?
No questions at this moment, sir.
Commissioner Edwards.
I guess I'm not going to dwell on it, but it's going to be, looks like it's going to come out of my district and Commissioner Mejia's district is the way it's got to go. And so I'm going to defer to Commissioner Mejia. So if you've got questions you want to ask about doing this or that, I have no concerns. As you know, professional staff are going to do this. I don't need a lot of input, and I'll defer to Commissioner Mejia if you have questions later on.
So, Robin, just to flesh out your last point, if it's possible that we don't get data till the 14th of November, we would be legally required then to have our districts done the next day, which obviously wouldn't happen. And so what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean that we get sued or?
I don't know. I don't know what that means. We're going to have to find out what the stick in the law is, if you will. You know, right. I don't know what the penalty is. We'll be finding that out and bringing it to you. But there's, I don't know how we're going to do this.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There's legal recourses when, you know, you can bring in other parties and shift the responsibility appropriately, but it's a big mess. So hopefully we don't have to get to that point. Commissioner Edwards, you have something?
I just want to do my part to expedite the process to make it happen as fast as I can. That's all.
Okay, well, we'll help you as best we can, Robin, and Mary and Whitney.
And I can share with you the Mary Hall's appreciation for seeking ways to expedite. We're working very closely with her and the team in the auditor's office. Whitney and I have been included in meetings. I know they're listening right now, and that Mary is eager to find ways to expedite this as well, because this impacts her and her team too.
So I really would like to have the board to give us a concurrence on the plan. This is the plan that were presented to you based on the timeline constraints that we have. If you're okay, we'll start implementing this plan as presented today.
That's fine with me.
I heard 3 thumbs. Let's see 3 thumbs.
Okay, thank you. So this will not be the last you hear about this. It certainly will keep you up to date. If something changes related to the release of the data for the 2020 census, we'll keep you posted. And Whitney Purcell, who is on the screen, she is the project manager on this particular item. So there you go.
That's good to know. Thank you, Whitney. Let's go to item 2 under sub-item 2 under 12, which is Shoreline Master Program Update. I see Jennifer Davis. Andy, is he here from that on this item as well?
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioners. This is just an update related to the progress and the process related to the Shoreline Management Plan. Attached to your documentation is a brief email, some of the bulleted points the staff would like to walk you through today. No action is needed today. This is just to keep the board up to date on some of the efforts that we're going through on this particular item. Jennifer.
Hi, good morning. Jennifer Davis, Community Planning Manager. I'll try to keep it brief. I know we're short on time, but I thought it was a good time to bring the board basically up to speed on where the county is with our major ongoing project to update the county's Shoreline Master Program. It's a good time to do this because your Planning Commission is getting closer and closer to issuing an updated draft of the SMP for formal public comment and public hearing. They're not quite there yet, but they're working very hard on it. But you might start to hear more about this project from your constituents as we get closer to that date for them to conclude this phase of their review. Just to catch everyone up to speed as some basic background, The State Shoreline Management Act requires the county to have a shoreline master program. That program is the policy and the regulatory document that governs land use along all marine waters, our lakes over 20 acres in size, and our larger rivers and streams. And since it is a regulatory program, any change to these rules attracts significant public interest. Our county's program has not been updated since 1990, and we have been working on a major update that is required under state law for several years now. The update process has included continuing and ongoing public comment throughout its process. It's been very transparent, but I know in recent months, some folks in the public have expressed to me some anxiousness about getting to the next phase of the project. Let's see the public hearing draft. Let's have an opportunity to provide our formal comment, and staff would like to do that as well. So the Planning Commission has really been working diligently on the Shoreline Master Program update in earnest since September 2018, and then off and on for years before that. But just since 2018, it's been a topic at nearly every single meeting the Planning Commission has held, at least 40 hours of just public meetings alone at the Planning Commission level. And of course, many additional hours put in by your volunteers to look at the draft language and provide comment and ask questions of staff. And then many, many hours of staff, of course, to research issues and respond to both public comment and Planning Commission questions. Public comment is, again, as I said, ongoing and continuous. All of that comment is provided to the Planning Commission as they do the work of reviewing different draft ideas and changes to these rules. And all of that public comment is posted on our Shoreline update project page on a regular basis. So again, it's a very transparent. Last year, we received a grant from Ecology to basically try to bring this project to the finish line. Last October, staff pulled together a fully updated version of the latest working draft, and the Planning Commission rolled up their sleeves and have been making final edits and changes to the rules to prepare it for public hearing. In the meantime, staff has prepared a extensive public outreach program that we're ready to launch once we have a public hearing draft available from the Planning Commission. And we've briefed the board on this before, but to catch up Commissioner Mejia, this public outreach campaign will launch again once the Planning Commission has finished this latest iteration of the draft update. And it will include some direct mailing to shoreline property owners, extensive outreach, a virtual open house, web mailing, press releases, and the whole 9 yards. We really want this distributed far and wide so that we can have a formal comment period for a several-week period before a public hearing at the Planning Commission level. So that's basically my update. Admittedly, this process has been very slow and deliberative, and the Planning Commission has really been digging in and looking at every word and every concept and every potential rule change that is being contemplated. So they're doing hard work, and I think that explains the length of time it's taken to get through this project. But if you do hear from your constituents about it and when they can see the next draft and how to provide comment, it's simple. Go to thurstonplanning.org and search for the Shoreline Code Update page, and that's where they can find all of the information, all of the public comment received to date, the current draft, and can be able to contact our lead planner on the project, who is Andy DeFovas, who is here today listening in case of questions. So that's my update. I know that was fast and a lot, and it's certainly not the last time you're going to hear about the project. We'll have major briefings later in the year once we're through the Planning Commission phase, but I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Commissioner Mejia, anything at this point?
No questions at this point, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. I think we're good then, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity for the update.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes.
Okay, item 3, item 3 is nonprofits letter.
Yeah, Commissioners, thank you. On March 1st, 2021, that was last Monday, you local nonprofits, which includes the Family Support Center, the Community Services, Community Youth Services, Enterprise for Equity, Sidewalk, Pizza Clutch, Interfaith Works, YWCA, Thurston Asset Building Coalition, Together, Olympia Film Society, Power, Homes First, and Grub. Send a letter to all the elected officials as well as administrators in Thurston County that will be including the cities and the county. And it's very lengthy letter. I'm not going to be reading that letter. And before you, it's for you to read when you have time, if you haven't done so already. My proposal to this is maybe for Commissioner Mensah, representing the commission, and myself, representing the administrative arm of the county, to attend one of the sessions they have laid out. Is one on March 24th from 5 to 7, and the other one is Tuesday, April 13, 5 to 7. So that will be my suggestion at this point related to this letter. No action is required from you at this point. And if with your concurrence, maybe Commissioner Messer and I can attend the April 13th meeting with the group, which is from 5 to 7. You're on mute, sir.
Sorry, any comments or questions on this, Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Not at this time.
Okay. That's fine with me, Romero. Happy to do that. Next is public testimony.
I don't have any specific public testimony. And again, you have received letters and emails and documentation, and that will be probably part of the public testimony this afternoon. I've also received a couple of emails supporting the declaring racism a crisis in Thurston County, and also will receive another email opposing to that action. So just to keep you posted, and I will highlight those this afternoon.
We received one email opposing, or a group, or there was one?
As far as I'm tracking, only one opposing, and we have a couple supporting the effort.
Okay. The other item, I don't think we'll have time to address it, but I just want to make note that I believe all of us received a letter from the City of Olympia regarding the request we had made on the clean energy program. And that's something maybe we can address next Tuesday.
Yes, thank you. That was in response to the letter that you sent last year, but since the board has taken a different action related to the climate action plan. So at this point, I don't think we need to do a follow-up to that letter. But I can touch base with you on the details.
All right, well, we can talk about it. I'll raise my concerns at a different time.
Okay.
Other commissioner items, number 5, and we have executive session. What's the estimated time we'll need for our executive session?
This will probably take the remainder of the time, maybe 12 minutes.
Okay, then let's just bypass commissioner items and we'll catch on those Thursday if commissioners can defer any items, and we'll go into executive session pursuant to RCW 423110B to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased price. Building availability is a specific topic. Commissioner's action may follow at the heels of an executive session, which we'll commence now.
Yeah, and you will come back to close the morning session, Commissioner. Thank you.